This is the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose, where I strategize with business owners on how to grow and scale their businesses to hit their income goals. This is episode 188 of the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose. Today I am speaking with Andrea Jones, and we're going to be diving into how to create a social media plan template. Andrea is going to be sharing a wealth of knowledge, talking about 5 pillars of content that you can use across different social media platforms. We also, of course, are going to be talking about Instagram, which many of you know has become one of my favorite platforms to use. And I wanted to remind you that if you guys haven't already grabbed your Instagram story planner, that you make sure you do, as you're going to hear her 5 pillars easily apply to stories. And in order to become consistent over there, my plan can help you. So make sure that you pop over to the show notes to grab that, and let's dive into this episode. Hi, Andrea. How are you?
I am so great. Thanks for having me on the show.
I am so excited to have you. Can you start off by introducing yourself? Tell us a bit about yourself as well as your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Andrea Jones. I'm a social media strategist, and I'm really passionate about helping those entrepreneurs and change makers and creatives figure out social media in a way that makes sense for them. Specifically people who, maybe feel overwhelmed by social media, or they feel like they have to do all of the things. They don't want to do all of the things. So that's kind of like my secret sauce where I hang out. And then I also teach other social media managers how to navigate this world for their clients as well. Because it's the same feeling of overwhelm and options and possibilities. And so there's a lot of ways you can figure out how to do it for yourself. And I'm kind of the guide to help you get there.
I love that. And for me, I think I saw you post something on Instagram talking about that you don't have to do all the things. And that was when I'm like, yep, we need to reach out to her.
Yes, I'm a huge believer of that. I don't have my notifications turned on. So, Instagram, Facebook Messenger, even email, nothing pops up on my phone because it's a huge distraction. And I found that actually helped me enjoy social media more because I didn't feel like I was being pulled in a million different directions. And so I know, especially as business owners or influencers or creatives, we have a lot of work that needs to be done. And so social media is a small piece of that, but it really shouldn't be like stuck in this endless scroll that we all get stuck in sometimes.
I think the piece of that for me is that not only that you're not getting pulled in all the different directions, but the idea, it almost sounds like you're more intentional when you are on social media. So you're using that time, and it is, those notifications can cause such that I get anxiety with it. Mine are all turned off as well. I don't want to see the numbers. I don't want to see that I have 37 messages waiting for me, so that I can kind of go into it with a plan. So can we actually start there? How do you come up with a social media plan?
Yeah. And it's a question that a lot of new business owners, even current business owners, struggle with. And the first thing you want to start off with your plan is an outcome. A goal. Like, what do you want to get from social media? So sometimes we get stuck in, I want 20,000 followers, or I want engagement. But at the end of the day, what you really want is to build your influence and build your business. So it doesn't matter what that looks like. You can have an influential business and only have 100 Instagram followers, but those Instagram followers could be 100 of your most dedicated people, right? So don't get caught up in the numbers and the vanity metric, but really think about what your big why is. What's your goal with your business? And that will kind of indicate how you should be spending your time on social media. But a few kind of general structural things that you want to consider when building your plan is you want to have 2 parts to your plan. The first part is the content, and the second part is the growth strategies. So for the first part, for the content, you want to make sure that you are outlining something that, again, links back to the big why. So for instance, if you are building your business and you want to get 10 more clients by the end of the year, then your content should speak to that. It should loop back to that. or if you are launching a podcast and you want to grow your podcast listeners, your content should link back to that big why. And that's why it's important. And then the growth strategies part is also very important, equally, if not more so. And I think sometimes we get stuck in the content creation side and we go, this isn't working. And it's oftentimes because we don't have it paired with a plan that also kind of dives into growing your account as well. Because we need fresh people coming into your account on a regular basis, because those are the people that are going to build up your community and build up your tribe. And you kind of have different people at different levels in your community. So someone may be a new person, someone may have been in your community for a year. They're at different stages, but you still want to kind of nurture and keep funneling people into that community. So when you're thinking about your plan, you want to think about both of those two segments of building out the strategy.
So let's talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about the growth strategies, because I'm really interested. I love the way that you talked about that it's not necessarily about your numbers as far as followers and engagement, but then in the back of my head, I'm also thinking, but how do I measure that I'm being successful then? What am I looking at? So I think growth strategies would probably kind of illuminate that for us.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And it again ties back to your why. So let's use the podcast example and say that your goal is to get more podcast listeners. The challenge with that is that as you're posting about your podcast on social media, you may not see people liking and commenting on those posts because you're asking them to go to your podcast and listen to it. So what you're measuring is maybe views on that post, or if it's on a platform with a link like Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, maybe you're looking at how many people click that link instead of the likes and the comments. So that will tell you a little bit about if it's successful or not. But as you're growing your account, it's a lot like dating or networking. So I'll use the dating analogy. If you decided that you're going to go on the hunt and you're going to find your person, you're probably not just going to sit at home and wait for someone to knock on the door. I mean, maybe you'll get the mailman, but that's about it. So what you do is you put yourself out there. Maybe you get on apps and you start talking to people. Maybe you ask your friends to see if they know anyone. Maybe you go to, outside of the pandemic, go to a bar and chat with someone. So you're putting yourself out there. So you want to put yourself out there on social media. And it does feel a little awkward and uncomfortable at first, especially I'm an introvert. So I find that it's definitely a muscle to flex. But you just want to start conversations with people. And we're not talking about selling your thing. So you're not going to run up to someone and say, listen to my podcast, because that's just like going up to someone in Starbucks and saying, date me. It's a little aggressive. But you want to start a conversation with them. Sometimes it's just eye contact. Sometimes it's just, I like your shirt. Sometimes it goes farther than that. So think of that on social media. On a platform like Instagram, for instance, you're looking through hashtags for people who may be interested in your podcast. You're going to some of the more popular accounts and maybe communicating with their community members. You're looking at specific locations that people have checked in on. You're going through your current followers and seeing who they're following and who they're engaging with. So it's a bit of an ongoing networking process. And for a lot of us, 10 to 15 minutes a day is all we need to grow this and to get it started. If you want to spend more time than that, then I start saying, okay, now it's time to outsource something else. Because again, we're busy, right? We have a lot of things. So for me, I like social media. I'm outsourcing bookkeeping and copywriting and all of those other things. So you can spend about 10 to 15 minutes a day focused on growing your accounts and building that community of dedicated community members.
That was such a great example, I think, for podcasters too, because I've recently had a conversation with my audience about podcasting and the idea that podcast listeners are podcast listeners. They're not everyone is going to listen to podcasts. So you do have to find that very niche specific audience that are going to be a podcast listener. And I love the way that you gave that example of going to other podcasters and actually interacting with their community because they're obviously already listening to podcasts. such a great example. So if we're talking about looking at the content, is there a social media plan template that can work for everyone?
Yes. So it's what I call the 5 pillars of content. And so when you're approaching your content strategy, a lot of us start here with the 5 pillars and have an even spread. This may change over time, but I'll give you the 5 pillars and then I would encourage you to try them and then look at your results and see which ones work better for you. So the first pillar of content is our promotional content. And this is one that's often easier for us. We're talking about what we do. We're selling our products and services. We're, talking about our lead magnets, our podcast episodes, our YouTube videos. Okay, so that's promotional content, but that's only one of the pillars. So you want to have balance. The second pillar of content is educational content. And this is positioning you and your business as an authority and an influence in your space. So I'll use 2 different examples. If you are a career coach, then you're going to talk about maybe how to write your resume as an educational content piece. You're going to give them a little bit of information, and then you can lead them into working with you. But let's say you're also like a YouTuber and you're not really selling anything, but you still want to be an authority in your space. You still can show up and give value in the form of a tip, a fun fact, a did you know. You want people to turn to you for that information. Okay, so we've got promotional content, we've got educational content. The third pillar is community content. And this is showcasing that there are other people in your space that are also talking about these topics. So it's showcasing that you're part of something bigger than yourself. So maybe it's sharing an external article from entrepreneur.com, or maybe it's talking about something topical that's happening in the world or in the news. You're showcasing that you have layers to your business. The fourth content piece and pillar is your entertainment content. And this one's fun because I don't know about you, but I don't log on to Facebook or Instagram hoping to see an ad. I'm usually looking for cute dog pictures or something. So think about how you can bring some level of entertainment to your business. And for a lot of us, this is behind the scenes content. This is that, think about reality TV. I know people joke sometimes about nobody wants to see what I had for dinner. But with reality TV shows, we go way in on the drama and the inspiration and the sob stories and the celebrations. And so think about how you can bring that to your business and your content as well. And it helps, especially if it's celebratory, because people love to celebrate with you. So think about how you can incorporate that. The last pillar of content is your engaging content. So engaging content. And this is twofold. So engaging content is great because it's bringing the community together and having conversations with each other. So you can ask a question, you can do a poll or something that will get people commenting in the comment section. And this is the start of a conversation. So make sure you respond back. The great thing about the engaging pillar as well is that you're training the algorithm to love your content, because the algorithms on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, they all want to see activity happening on your posts. So yes, it's bringing your community together, but you're also giving the algorithm what it wants and showing that your content is valuable. Because as I mentioned earlier, if you're doing something like promoting a podcast episode or talking about your lead magnet or directing people to your website, the algorithm may not necessarily see that post as valuable because people are leaving after they see it. They see your post and they go do what you ask them to do. So you do want to have that balance of posts. So to review, you've got promotional content, educational content, community-based content, entertaining content, and engaging content. And this is typically a great place to start. And I mentioned that some businesses have more of one type of content than another. One of my clients is an e-commerce company, and we started off with the 5 pillars, and after a year, we were down to just promotional content because people loved hearing about the products. Those posts did way better than any of our other posts. So we just stuck with it. Another one of my clients is almost 90% engaging content. Her audience just wants to talk to each other. And so you may start seeing your pillars shift as you start looking at the data and seeing what works for you. But for a lot of us, starting with those 5 pillars is a great way to kind of do a reset and see what's actually working with our social media content plan.
Okay. So now the question becomes, because you have mentioned Facebook and Instagram, and those are the 2 I feel like most people are consistently using for the most part. Which platforms should we be on? Because obviously we talked about the fact that you can't do everything. Are there specific platforms that you feel like everyone needs to be on? What would those look like?
There are 2 right now that are front runners for me. If someone was saying, I'm starting from 0 today, I would recommend either Instagram or LinkedIn. But that's, we're recording this in July of 2020. That could change. But if you were starting from scratch today, those are the platforms where you can grow your audience the fastest. But I'll put a huge asterisk on this. If you log into LinkedIn, even if I say it's the best platform for you, if you log on and you go, I hate this, I'm never going to do it, then I'm going to say no, don't do it. Because you have to enjoy it at least a little bit in order to use it regularly. It's almost like working out. If you're going to the gym, for instance, and some trainer said you have to run at full speed for 15 minutes every single day, I'd say, nope, I'm not signing up for that plan because I'm not running. So even if they said it's the best thing for me, I would not do it. But if they said I could, use the elliptical on the slowest mode possible, I could commit to that. So think about what works for you in conjunction with what's working in general right now.
Okay. No, that's so good. And I do think part of it also goes back to where's your audience, right? Like I know, especially for my audience listening in, we have a lot of food bloggers. So for them, LinkedIn may not be the best fit where their audience is going to LinkedIn looking for food content, whereas they might be using Pinterest, which of course is used an entirely different way. The other piece for me that came to mind is that when you were talking about the 5 pillars, I feel like there's different aspects of Instagram in particular that could work real well for that, where it may not be the engaging post may not work as well on the feed, but in stories, it would work so easily and so well.
Whether you're a seasoned podcaster or just thinking of starting a podcast, you need to listen to Buzzcast from the folks at Buzzsprout. Here we go! Buzzcast covers everything a podcaster should know, from marketing strategies and how to make money from your podcast to the latest and greatest tech and industry insights to keep you on the cutting edge. Follow Buzzcast by clicking the link in the description or go to buzzcast.buzzsprout.com and keep podcasting.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're actually seeing right now that the attention to stories, so the people who are watching Instagram stories, is different than those who are in the feed. So with a lot of my clients and students, we're encouraging them to think of ways they can repurpose their story content into feed content and their feed content into story content. So if you're thinking about an idea for a post, you can maybe post that as a poll in your stories first, and then whatever the results are, maybe that then becomes a feed post. So there's a lot of kind of overlap there, and that's another way to cut down on the overwhelm, especially if you're a food blogger. You don't necessarily need to come up with fresh new content every single post, every single day. That just sounds exhausting as I'm saying it. You can repurpose those ideas. So if you, for instance, have like a recipe for a fresh summer salad, that could be a whole number of posts. You could talk in your stories about, do people like salads or not? I'm a huge salad lover. My husband hates salads, doesn't even understand why I like them. So that's a conversation piece. Maybe in the feed, you could talk about different ingredients for salads. What makes it a summer salad versus a winter salad? You can talk about the benefits of the specific ingredients, like how, arugula is good for you or something like that. So that one idea can turn into a multitude of posts. And I highly encourage you to think that way as you're creating your social media content.
It's like not reinventing the wheel every single time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the way that you were talking about, I actually talk a lot of my clients, and I've had multiple podcast episodes about it. I love Instagram stories. And I do find that I've had a lot of clients that will create products or, like you said, content based on the interaction they've gotten in their polls. Polls are my favorite feature, I think, in Instagram stories. I use them constantly.
Yeah, I love them. And, they work two ways too. So I love posting them on my own page as well, but I would encourage you to go interact with other people's polls. Specifically, after you give your answer, shoot them a DM about why you answered that way. You never know where those conversations can go. And responding to stories are a really great way to kind of get that networking and growth strategies out there because it feels a little more personalized, and like the automation robots haven't quite taken over automated DMs yet. They are in the polls and in the questions, which is so annoying. But that human element, that human interaction is still very, very important.
Yes. So I hear continually from clients that they can't stand social media because, of course, they get frustrated or feel like they're spinning. How would you recommend they navigate if they don't have the money to hire out for it yet?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So you do want to limit your time on social media. I think the reason that most people get frustrated with social media is they're putting way too much energy into it, and you're just not going to get the return on that energy, especially if you don't like it. You're going to feel like you're not making any progress. So typically what I recommend is I want you to give yourself a time limit. So I want you to limit yourself to the actual content creation, 1 hour a week. That's it. And I typically do mine on Fridays for the next week. So on Fridays, I'm going to outline all of my posts, pick some pictures, maybe create a graphic in Canva and set it all up. And then I don't think about it until next Friday. So 1 hour a week. Now, I mentioned the 5 pillars of content. Some of my students, when they start out, they only get one of those pillars down in the hour. That's fine. You're at the 5-pound weight level. You'll work up. You'll build those muscles, right? That's okay, because then in the following weeks you'll be able to create more content faster as you practice it. But 1 hour a week. And then for the growth strategies, I want you to only spend 10 or 15 minutes a day actively growing your audience. So just after lunch, or the beginning of your day, the end of the day, give yourself a time limit. And I'm not talking about looking at cute dogs. That's like later fun time, right? I'm talking about like actually growing your audience. So 10 to 15 minutes a day. And that's it. And if you can commit to that, you will find yourself feeling less overwhelmed by social media, and you'll be able to actually see more progress because you're not putting way too much into it. So with those time limits as well, you can adjust it and spend more time. But what I have found is that a lot of business owners, content creators, like I said earlier, we have way too much to do. So that's when it's time to start outsourcing. You can hire a VA who will maybe help you with designing some of the graphics or writing some of the captions. You could even hire to help with things like managing your inbox or other aspects of your business. Maybe they're helping elsewhere, so you could spend more time on social media. But you have to give yourself the commitment of those time limits, and those will help you get to where you need to be so that you can start outsourcing some of those other things.
Yes. So that was actually my next question, and you kind of started to go into it a little bit. As far as if we can afford to start to hire out for a social media plan that would actually get implemented by someone else, what should they be looking for?
So when you're looking for someone else to take over social media for you, there's a few different things you want to look for. And it depends on your brand. So for instance, I do this for my clients. There are some brands where the client has to do the writing. If they have a really strong voice or they're still finding their voice, it's really hard for someone to take over. The way around this is if you have primary content pieces that your social media manager can then pull from. So some of my best clients have podcasts, they have blogs, they make YouTube videos where I can go in and easily replicate their voice because I have a lot of reference material. So if you don't have reference material, you may want to think about creating some, or looking into having the social media manager just do other things. But when you're looking for a social media manager, you want to find someone who is excited about your niche and your topics. So they don't have to necessarily have clients in that space, but they need to be able to show a level of interest in what you're doing. So I'll give an example. A lot of my clients are, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but I have a small section of clients who are lawyers. And I don't know almost anything about the law. But the reason that they're clients is they're like, we need someone to take our like lawyer jargony talk and turn it into like real people language for social media. And I have fun with that kind of stuff. That's fun for me. So if you have fun with that, then go for it. Most of my clients are in the, what I would call like difference maker, transformative space. They're coaches, they're, therapists, they're influencers. And so a lot of that too is because I like that. I like helping people make a difference. And so if you're looking for a social media manager, you want to look for someone who is aligned in that way. You also want to look for a few different things. Do they have a process? So do they have a process already in place for taking your ideas and turning them into social media posts? If they don't, you're going to have to help them with that, and it may be more time for you. So just consider that. It's not a bad thing because you can sometimes probably get someone at a little lower of a price because you're helping them develop the process. But a social media manager would already have a process in place where you can just go, blah, here's my ideas, and then they can turn them into posts. And then you also want to make sure that they have a way to show you results. So they should have a way that they say, here's what happened, here's how it's good or bad, and here's what we're going to do going forward. That's very key because otherwise you'll be like, I've been paying a smart person for 6 months and I have no idea what difference it's making, right? So make sure that you have that kind of factor in your person that you're looking for. The rest of it varies so much. Some people charge hourly, some people charge by packages, some people don't write captions, some people do, some people don't do any of the designing, some people do. So you really need to just interview a few people, see which one would fall in line with your needs and go from there.
So helpful. So now, where are the best places to actually get in contact with you? Because you have given us so many nuggets of information. I want people to be able to connect with you.
Yes. So if you want to learn more about something like the 5 pillars of content, I do have a free course. It's called onlinedrea.com/free. It's the social media success framework. And it's really just my approach to social media. We talk about growth strategies. We talk about content. We talk about analytics. And it's a little sample of what I include in a lot of my programs. But if you just want to connect with me on social, I'm having a lot of fun on Instagram right now, especially Instagram stories. So you can find me at onlinedrea pretty much anywhere on social media.
Okay, perfect. We're going to make sure that we link to those in the show notes. I appreciate you so much, Andrea, for taking the time to speak with my audience, share your knowledge, and just want to say thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me. This has been fun.
Of course. All right. Well, there you have it. Clearly, using these 5 pillars of content that Andrea talks about are only going to help you have a plan in place for your social media. Time to stop feeling overwhelmed as if you always have to be in it and really listen to the time constraints that she talked about because it's only going to make your life that much easier. All right, you guys, I appreciate you so much. If you are listening in and you are out taking a walk or you're playing in the backyard with the kids, send me a screenshot as you're listening and put it up on Instagram stories. You can tag me at Jenny_Melrose. I love seeing what you guys are doing, especially now that we are in the summer months. All right, until next time, I will see you all then.